Hey! It's I, the Philippines speaking. Welcome to this video. Before we start, I have something to say. This is my new text-to-speech voice. Anyways, let's start the video. Television has been around in my borders for less than half a century, and it easily assimilated itself into the culture of I as the Philippines. In 1953, when I was newly recovered from the trauma of World War II, my people were eager to treat themselves to something new and exciting. I had my official telecast on June 12, 1946. On that date, an American engineer established the first radio network in I as the Philippines. He named it the Bolinao Electronics Corporation, or BEC for short. This first radio network was run by an American major from the Signal Service of the United States Army. His name was Jim Lindenberg. He became the future father of Philippine television. The next day, James Lindenberg applied for a license to build and operate the first television station in I as the Philippines. A few hours later, his request was granted. However, Lindenberg decided to branch into radio broadcasting instead. That was due to the scarcity of materials and my strict import controls. Nevertheless, Lindenberg's efforts were not wasted. His dream became a reality when Judge Antonio Quirino entered the picture. Judge Quirino, who was the brother of Elpidio Quirino, who at the time was the president of I as the Philippines, had been trying to get a license from Congress. Unfortunately, he was unable to get one for political reasons. Denied by my Congress, the only alternative left for him was to buy stocks from the aforementioned Bolinao Electronics Corporation. In 1952, Judge Quirino bought 70% of BEC and thus gained the franchise indirectly. He changed the name of BEC to ABS, or Alto Broadcasting System for short. The next year, Quirino introduced the first television station in I as the Philippines when he opened ZAC TV Channel 3. But before its initial telecast, I had to import television sets, and people had to be trained. With the help of the Radio Corporation of America, or RCA. 4 men in German technical training in the United States. These 4 men were given training in transmission and reception. It's no use transmitting Channel 3 on the air in Manila when nobody knows how to fix or install a television set. The month prior to the first telecast was a very busy one for the young broadcasting station. The staff at the station were setting up the station and bringing in the receiving sets. Then on October 23, 1953, the first television broadcast in I as the Philippines went on the air. This first television broadcast in I as the Philippines was a garden party at the Quirino residence. The Quirino family invited people. I was the first, and actually only country invited. There were cocktails, and things. ZAC TV Channel 3 started out with a 4-hour broadcast schedule per day. This program was from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. Test patterns happened from 11 p.m. to 5:59 p.m. the next day. There were 8 programs per day. The prime time shows aired from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. The final show, which was TV Patrol, aired for 47 minutes at 9 p.m. The station signed off by naming their stations. That happened for 2 minutes at 9:47 p.m. The National of I as the Philippines aired at 9:49 p.m. The broadcast schedule for the next day would air for 10 minutes at 9:50 p.m. Then at 10 p.m., the station finally signed off. In my borders, the early days of television were not smooth sailing. One of the problems says that time was the cost of television sets. At that time, television sets costed about 300 pesos. Therefore, if a house had 1 television set inside of it, then, while the neighbors come in at around 6 p.m. just to watch television, everybody was excited about it. That includes even they watched it the 100th time. At this point, everybody appreciated television. That's because there was no question on what issue, and because they were all wholesome. They liked it. However, television never reached the popularity of radio. That was because the interconnected electricity grids in I as the Philippines weren't strong like they are today in 2023. If you don't have electricity, your television won't work. Only a few people had television sets. That was because of the problems with the price of television, and the 4 interconnected grids in my borders being a part of me when I was a second world country. As an effect, only a small number of advertisers dared to sponsor shows. To entice advertisers, simulcasts were offered as a promotional gimmick. Programs were aired simultaneously over the radio, and on television. As a result, many popular radio shows like Student Canteens had gotten new lives on television. Student Canteen was a radio program, and when it became very popular because it became a radio program that's televised. That was the first live variety show that was catered to students. 5 years after the first television broadcast in my borders, ABS was bought by the Chronicle Broadcasting Network, or CBN. The owners of CBN merged the two companies under the original name of the Ballinawa Electronics Corporation. The same day, DZXL Channel 2 launched as the second television station in my borders. A few years later, the corporate name and channel name were changed to the Alto Broadcasting System, Chronicle Broadcasting Network, or ABS-CBN. This happened because when these two companies formally merged at 12 a.m. the same day. A few years in 1967, a few things happened. The corporate name was changed to the ABS-CBN Broadcast Corporation. ABS-CBN has remained with same corporate name ever since. However, there is one exception. I will get back to that later. Moving on. The same day, these two companies fully merged in 1967. Over the next few years, the followed television stations opened: DZBB Channel 7, DZTV Channel 13, DZTM Channel 5, DRBS Channel 7, and DZRH Channel 11. The owner of Channel 7 had a special place in the hearts of a generation of kids. To all viewers, everyone who grew up in the 1950s and the 1960s. You may remember that Uncle Bob's Lucky 7 Club was the club to join. A few years later in 1969, everyone in my borders watched the live television coverage of the Apollo 11 historic landing. The moon landing was the first telecast via satellite, and the first broadcast in color within the Philippines. The same year, Radio Philippines Network branched out in the television with Channel 9. It was RPN 9 who introduced the longest-airing sitcom named Gene and Marcia. In the late 1960s and the early 1970s, Filipinos were craving for steady doses of reality in the form of news and public affairs programs. Back in 1962, the ABS-CBN Evening News was first aired. Well, on ABS-CBN. This is where the corporate name of ABS-CBN comes back in.